This is Nidhi from Design Hill, your host for the day. I hope you and your family are keeping well and safe, and I'd like to welcome you all in this session where we're going to discuss about everything about YouTube strategy, how to grow your audience and profits. Today's event is brought to you by Design Hill, world's leading creative marketplace that caters to the creative needs of businesses and individuals alike, who can source high quality designs from professional designers and buy unique products created by independent artists. So, moving ahead, let me introduce our guest for today. We all know him some way or the other. We know that, but let me just quickly give a nice introduction. We have with us Liron Segev. Liron is an internationally celebrated YouTube digital strategist and the director of customer success at vidIQ. Liron has not only developed content strategies for consistently with the largest YouTubers on the platform, developing and hacking their growth strategies. How cool is that? Liron is also an award tech blogger on thetechieguy.com, YouTuber at youtube.com/Liron Segev, and he gets to pick the brains of the brightest gurus in the YouTube space on his Tube Talk podcast. Liron, would you like to say a quick hi to the audiences?
Hello, everybody. Thank you for taking your time out of your day to join us. We're going to have lots of fun. We're going to dive into YouTube and monetizations and how to do this. It's going to be fun. We'll have a good session.
Absolutely. We are very sure of that. So great. Before we start the session, here's a quick update for everyone. You can take a screenshot of this event and post it on your Insta story and tag Design Hill DH and also the Techie Guy, which is Liron's handle. One lucky winner will have a chance to win a PS print shop gift card worth $50. Along with that, as a gesture of appreciation, since you all joined us for this event, we have some special offers for you. Keep an eye on our chat section, and Robin will tell you what they are about. Moving ahead, let's quickly look at what Design Hill is all about.
Looking to get your boss to remember your name? Head to the world's #1 creative marketplace, Design Hill.
When my company promoted me to head up our latest real estate development project, I was excited, then anxious, then petrified. How was I going to hire the team, get the designs completed, and design beautiful presentation materials on our lean budget while impressing my bosses, some of whom are still learning my name?
Good job, Mitch.
My name's Lawrence. That's why I went to Design Hill and got the design help I needed that fit within my company's brand guidelines. The process was simple. Design Hill's design contest ensured I'd get a ton of results I'd love. Start by picking a number of designs that inspire you. This one's good, and that one. This one speaks to me. Then share some information about the project. Lastly, pick a package that fits your budget. Do you just want a logo, or do you want it all? Then, boom. I got more than 60 custom design options to choose from, as well as all the other graphic design assets I wanted. And it's all backed by Design Hill's 100% money-back guarantee. If I don't find a design I like, I get my money back. You can't lose. Now I have what I need to make a splash in my meetings, with everything from business cards, pamphlets, posters, and more. It's real.
Let the world know it's real and build your brand with Design Hill.
All right, that was all about Design Hill, and now we are set to start the session. We will be taking up the questions during the session, guys. So if you have any, please drop them in the questions tab on your screen, and we'll make sure we pick the questions with the maximum of votes. So, Liron, going ahead with my first question, while I was doing my research for this session, I somewhere read that there's a figure on the internet that says there are 2 billion unique YouTube users every month, all doing something or these similar. So I just wanted to understand from you, how does one idea? I've been wanting to start my food channel for almost about 6 months now. But is it really possible to survive sustainably amid such tough competition?
Absolutely. The rule is simple. It's never too late and it's never too saturated. Here is what I mean by that. When you're passionate about a specific topic, whether you're entertaining or whether you're educating, there's going to be an audience for it. Because if you're passionate about it, that means there's other people that are passionate about it. And that's the most important thing, is being yourself. As the famous saying goes, be yourself, everybody else is already taken. The biggest mistakes creators do is that they go out and they try to be a copy of somebody else. And then they wonder why they're not succeeding. I don't want to see a copy. If I want to see the best vlogger, Casey Neistat, so I'm going to watch him. I'm not going to watch someone who makes similar type of content using Casey's style. I'm coming to a channel because I want to see that person, that personality. I want to know what they are bringing to the table. As long as you bear that in mind and you're talking about something that you're genuinely excited about, that you genuinely can't wait to share with the world, it's never too late. It's never too saturated. There isn't another person like you because you're you. Give you a case example with my channel. I went from 5,000 subscribers to now 215,000 subscribers, and in a very competitive space, the technology world. So if I can do it in a tech space where there are people with millions and millions and millions of subscribers, well, so what? If there's always place for one more, as long as you're being unique, as long as you're being you, give people a reason to come to your channel. The number one thing is focus. And when you can focus your channel, well, everything is a possibility.
I guess there's some really nice advice. And like you said, that, we all are unique in some way or the other, and we need to extract that uniqueness out of us, no matter how similar our thoughts can be. Like, I've always wanted to start a food channel, but then I always wonder there are many out there already. But so no, it always bogs me down to see a lot of channels doing already well. And I'm really fond of it. I know that's where my passion, make it big in some field or the other. So yes, that really motivates me. So yeah, thank you so much, Liron, for your advice. Moving ahead, again, let's talk a bit about the basics, because that's where it all gets started. How does audience geography, demographics, personas, I mean, the user personas play a key role in ensuring the content that we're putting out there is effective and hence ranking up the views? I mean, that's
Yeah, so I think at the end of the day, it boils down to a simple thing. You have to know your audience. If you try and make a video for absolutely everyone, all of the time, everywhere in the world, you're never going to succeed, because people are different. They've got different tastes, different personalities, different time of the day, different time of the year, different events. You need to understand who is your demographic, who is your key audience. I break it down to the point where I'm making a video for one person. In my mind, it's one person. In fact, I've got his name on the wall. I've got a picture of what he looks like. Every single time I make a video, I look up and I say, okay, will he watch my video? Because I know that my demographics on my technology channel is male. He's between 35 and 45, married with kids, has got some income, but not super rich that can just spend money on all the latest technology. Doesn't have lots of time in the day, so doesn't want to sit through a 20-minute video. He only wants 5-minute videos, nice and quick, in and out. He wants to learn and not just be told what to do and follow like a sheep. That's my guy. In fact, I call my guy Alex. He's got a name. So every single time I make a video, I say, will Alex watch? Sarah Watson says in the chat, Alex. She's heard me talk about Alex before. So it's the most important thing is make your video for a specific demographic. Because if I'm trying to make a video for everybody, well, I'm always going to fail, because I can't please everyone. But I can please my one person. I can please my Alex. So make sure you understand who your avatar is. Be super clear what you're talking about every single time. And then always look up and say, will Alex watch? Will your avatar watch? If the answer is no, don't make the video. If the answer is yes, go for it.
Great. It's really important to understand your user persona. And if I specifically talk about one genre, like I keep talking about my food channel, but then I always think that who is that I will be targeting, right?
Yeah.
Is it the homemakers, or is it, the students putting up in a paying guest or something? So, within one field, there are separate fields that you can, put your content through. So yes, there is a scope for that. And yes, we should be targeting like a certain persona and not everyone, and then just going haywire.
Yeah, and even if in your case with the food channel, you can say, I'm going to have a channel to how to make home cooked meals like a restaurant that cost $10 or less. Maybe that's your theme. And then you can appeal to the homes, you can appeal to students, you can appeal to people who are traveling, but the underlying message is $10 or less, or whatever the number is.
Yes, yes,
Or
absolutely.
you can be something completely different. You can say restaurant quality meals made at home. Now you're appealing to a different audience. Now you can talk about all of those events. They can all be on your channel because the underlying element is food at home, cooking at home. It's all about now being safer at home because of everything that's going on in the world. So you're being that specific because that is what people are searching for. And when people are searching for that, well, odds are much better that you're going to come up as opposed to I'm making one for student travelers, and then tomorrow I'm going to make gourmet meal. The next day I'm going to make a wedding cake. Well, then who's your audience really?
Right, right, absolutely. I think with that example, you actually taught us how to, how to be unique while being doing this, similar things. Like, so
Right.
yes, thank you. Yeah, right. So also, Leroy, I wanted to also know that, what kind of content generally works the best. We have a series of these questions where our registrants have asked how long the content should be. And, there's this very funny question that one of the registrants asked that, is the speaker or the person in the video has to be always talkative for a YouTube channel to run? So these are very quick questions that our registrants had.
Okay, quick question, but not quick answers. So
Okay.
let's start with the first one. So how long should a video be? The answer is very simple, long enough. Here's what I mean. If I can tell you how to tie a tie in 2 minutes or 5 minutes, then I mustn't make it a 20-minute video because people are going to get irritated. Get into the point, do what you want to say, and then tell the audience. Think about your own experience. When you're online and when you're on YouTube, if you see a video is 20 minutes, and everything is just dragging on and on and on, it's too irritating. You're just going to go to the next video. But if you come in and we'll say, I'm going to tell you how to tie a tie in 5 steps, let's do this. And then they tell you how to do it, that's what you want. You want that information. Remember, YouTube is divided into 2 main categories. There is the education, and then there is entertainment. Now, let's talk about entertainment for a second. Entertainment are things like vlogging and documentaries and pranks, things like that. Those have got a various length of time because people are there for the entertainment. So they're happy to sit through that video. The how-to, well, people are there to learn something. They're there to get an answer to a question that they have. If your toilet is clogged and it's leaking water all over your bathroom, you don't want to sit through a 20-minute video. You just want the answer. How do I fix this right now? Same thing here. So always remember, why are you there online? Who is your audience? Who's your persona? Who are you catering for? What content do they want? So how long should a video be? It should be long enough so you can give the information in a way that the user wants to receive it. Some industries are going to want longer videos. Some industries are going to want shorter videos. You might have heard that people need to make videos which are 10 minutes or longer. The reason for it is that when you go from 10 minutes up, and in fact, YouTube has just changed it, it's from 8 minutes and up, you're able to put ads in the middle of your video as well, not just the beginning and not just the end. So a lot of YouTubers are trying to stretch their videos so they can put more ads in the middle. I don't believe that's a good practice, but that is why you may have heard that every video needs to be 8 minutes or longer. And again, on my personal channel, most of my videos are 6-7 minutes. Every time I try and make a longer video, my audience doesn't like it, they don't watch, and you've got that information in your analytics. So as soon as you can see that your audience isn't watching longer and longer and longer videos, stop making them because it's just hurting your channel. So that was the question about how long should it be. Then you had a couple of more that you threw in there. What was the other question?
So yeah, so the other question was, one second, I'll just read it out for you. The other quick question was, how to grow without clickbaits. But I think that's a different topic altogether. Does everyone has to be a talkative YouTuber? Yeah, that's what the question was.
Oh, right. Yes. No, we've seen a lot of channels where people are actually not on camera. People maybe will do a cooking channel. They'll have the camera situated at the top, and all you can see is the hands working. That's perfectly fine. We've seen a lot of animation channels where there is no people even on the camera. In fact, I work with a channel that all they do is have their dogs on camera. They don't even have a single person on camera. So it doesn't have to be you on camera all the time. It's got to be about the quality of the video. And here's what I mean. People always ask me, how do I get more subscribers? How do I get more views, right? The answer is simple. Make videos people want to watch. Now, if people want to watch the dogs playing in the snow, superb, then that's the video. If people want to watch you telling them and giving them information, then that's the video. But you got to make a video. It doesn't matter how you do it, but it's got to be content that people want to consume. If somebody's interested in your content, they're able to put up with a lot of stuff, but they want to make sure that they're getting that story, they're getting that information, and that is the critical. Do you have to be on camera? No. Is it better to be on camera? Usually, yes, because people make a connection with another person. We don't make a connection with a logo or a brand, a brand name. We want to make a connection with somebody who's delivering us the content. Because when I see somebody's video, I'm more likely to click on it than I see my toothpaste company making a video. Well, I don't really care what my toothpaste company is up to. So it's about the people. So could you be on camera? That's always ideal.
Great. So that also reminds me of my husband's travel channel, by the way, which he has just started. And we kind of, found out that, till the time there was no voiceover or a person speaking to the viewer, the views and the subscribers were less. And as soon as we put the voiceover and there was someone interacting with the audiences, it's a very basic thing. But yes, as simple as that, the views and the subscribers shot up. So yes, that does make sense. So Liron, moving ahead, like I said, I was doing my research and I found out somewhere that, content discovery is what most YouTubers struggle with. So I wanted to talk a little about the SEO. And I also read that, YouTube has its own search engine. Is that true?
Yeah, YouTube is the world's second largest search engine, which the first search engine is Google. And as you know, Google owns YouTube.
Right. So could you please highlight a few basics that people can take care of when they are SEOing their content on YouTube? It works a bit different than the regular. Could you please help us understand that a bit?
Yes. So the most important thing is SEO rules still apply on YouTube, and YouTube's AI system, the artificial intelligence systems, because it's plural, there's lots of systems that drive the YouTube algorithm. They're looking for different things. And in the old days of YouTube, you used to take all the keywords and stuff them into the title. And then YouTube got smarter. And then the other thing was clickbait titles. 10 things you're never going to believe I did yesterday. Number 3 will shock you. That kind of thing. Those days are gone as well. What YouTube knows, YouTube itself, the system, let's talk about YouTube as a whole. It can read your thumbnail, your picture, identify the colors, the expressions, the text that you have. It knows how to read an image. It knows how to listen to all your audio. It automatically captions your video. It looks at the title and your description and your tags, and it gets all that information. And because it has all this information, it knows what your video is about. So the most important thing is when you make a title for YouTube, you got to use your thumbnail and your title, but together. Here's what I mean. The number one thing on YouTube is thumbnail. Why? Because when somebody does a search and your video comes up, your video is going to come up and amongst lots of other videos. Your mission of your thumbnail is just one thing, to get somebody to stop and then look at your title. So your thumbnail says, oh, whoa, I've got to look at this. And then you look across as your title, and your title sells the click. So when you write your title, write it for people. Don't write it for the machine. Don't say food, comma, student, comma, how to, comma. Nobody's going to click on it. But when you write something like, I don't know, I've got this phone, and I'm going to say 3 reasons why I love this phone. That's much more interesting than Google sent me a phone. Nobody cares. But you got to write for people. And that's the most important thing. So as far as SEO is concerned, the biggest thing that you can do is remember that YouTube and Google work together. You might have seen it when you go into Google and you do a search for some keywords, you'll see that at the top now, YouTube clips starts to come out, because YouTube is sending that information, or Google is pulling that information, because it wants to help the user. It wants to help the person doing the search to get the best experience. And if the best answer to your question is a video, then Google's going to show that to you. Which brings me back to the YouTube. When you are on YouTube, go to the YouTube search. This is the best ninja tip for those who are just starting out. Go onto YouTube search and start typing your keyword. Let's just say we're talking about cooking, right? So you type, let's use my pizza example. I always like this example. Go into YouTube search and type the word pizza, and then press the space bar. And then you'll see YouTube auto completes a whole bunch of information. What are those? Those informations is basically what people are typing around the world, looking for information about your subject, about pizza. So now you have ideas of what people are searching for. So if you make videos that answers those questions, odds are a lot better that YouTube is going to marry up the search with your video. And remember, YouTube is the search engine. What do we do in a search engine? We ask questions.
Right.
So remember, don't just type pizza. Go to the beginning of the word pizza and type the word how, space pizza. Where, when, who, what, all of those question words, because those are the questions that people are asking. You'll very quickly find how to make pizza in an oven, how to make pizza in a microwave, how to make chocolate cake in a mug, how to make chocolate cake in a mug in a microwave. Now, if you make a video, how to make chocolate cake in a mug in a microwave, you know you're going to get views. Hopefully that makes sense.
That does make sense, and that's a really nice way of putting it across. And those examples really work. I hope the audience is actually taking a note of it, because these are really intricate details. And thank you so much for these, Liron. So I'm going to move a little ahead again, and I'm also going to address the elephant in the room. And I know this was actually the most asked question, most basic, yet the most asked question. Let's talk about earning via a YouTube channel. But before we get on the how part, could you also please tell us the kinds of income one can make via YouTube channel, because that's also something we need to understand.
Yeah, so there's a lot of ways to make money off YouTube. The most obvious one is YouTube ads. YouTube, once you reach 4,000 hours and 1,000 subscribers, you can, within 12 months, you can apply to YouTube's partner program. If your channel is accepted, every time there's an ad that appears on your channel, you're going to get revenue out of that. So that's the most obvious one, and that's the one everybody talks about. But there are lots of other ways to do it, even before you get to 1,000 subscribers, and even before you get to your 4,000 hours. So the first way is something called affiliate links. You can sign up with various programs. You can just Google affiliate programs. Something like Amazon has an affiliate program. In the US, we have Walmart, Best Buy. We've got all these brands that have an affiliate program. And basically what that means, if you're talking about a product and you can say, hey, if you want to buy this product, there's a link in the description, click on that. If they click on that link and they buy that product, you're going to get a commission out of that. Now, you're already making the video anyway. So why not push people to buy the product? It doesn't cost them anything extra, and you get some money out of that. An affiliate doesn't sound like a lot because it's a small percentage, but remember, YouTube videos live forever. I'm still getting money from affiliate links, which I've had 4 years ago, because every once in a while, somebody clicks and they make a purchase. So affiliate are very, very important, very, very underrated. Every creator should be using affiliate links. And remember, the other thing is a lot of the systems, like Amazon, for example, if you get somebody to get to Amazon because of your link, not only do you get commission from the product that they buy from your link, but if they buy other things, people are on Amazon anyway, and they add 2 or 3 other things in the cart, you also get a revenue cut out of that as well. So affiliate works really, really well. So number one is affiliate. Another way to do it is to sell products. You can sell products, you can sell services. So if we're talking about, let's just say, use your cooking example. We're talking about cooking, right? You might say to someone, hey, if you want me to send you this recipe, there's a link in the description. Click on that link. It asks them for their email address, and you can send them a PDF of that particular recipe.
Right.
Now you're building up a mailing list. Use that mailing list that you can send them an email to say, hey, I've also got a cooking book. Would you like to purchase that? So another way of doing it is building a mailing list and selling products. You could also sell services, people that consult, people that say, hey, I'm helping you here with YouTube, but if you want me to consult to you on your channel, click the link in the description and come in and we'll set up a consulting session. So there's all of that. Then, of course, you can go work with brands. You can go to a company and say, hey, look, I don't know, let's find this product again. Hey, Google, I'm going to be making a video about your product. How about we work together? You know, you pay me X number of dollars. These are my views. This is my demographics. And then I'm going to be talking about your product. Then I can get some money from the brand. There are all those things that go off YouTube, but YouTube becomes your main platform to start earning those revenue, that you're not just relying on ads. The big mistake that creators make, they start making some nice money off the YouTube ads and they think, oh, great, I don't have to do any more work, I'm done. But then YouTube goes and makes a change because it's their system. They're absolutely entitled to do it. Remember, as much as we complain about YouTube, we're getting the system for free and they're paying us to be on it. So if they make a change and they say, okay, no more ads for all creators under 1,000 subscribers, now what do? You've just lost your income. Right. Or when you're making kids content and now that's no longer allowed to have ads on it, you've just lost all your ads overnight. So you've got to make sure you're not relying on one thing, but you're using YouTube as a base to build your authority so that you can branch out to other revenue streams.
Right. So not sticking to just one way of making, like you said, that, while you're making money through ads, you also got to build a list that, build a list of your subscribers.
Exactly.
As and when you come up with another startup of yours, like you said, a cooking book maybe, or another cosmetic line of yours, in case if you're a fashion YouTuber. So you got to think on those lines as well. So right. So great information on that front, Liron. Let's take a few questions from the questions tab. I can see a few questions. All right, I'm gonna read out the last question by Wendy. He was the first one to ask this question, and he's asking, are there industries that are not successful on YouTube? We have a company that has been impacted by the pandemic, shared offices, any thoughts?
Yeah, so a lot of people, a lot of businesses have been impacted, obviously, by what's going on in the world. So are there industries which don't really work at all on YouTube? Not that I've seen specifically. I've seen everything from local restaurants that are very, relying on real world customers. I've seen a channel where all they do is they look after people's lawns, literally cutting people's grass, and they've got an entire channel just for that. So people want information, and that's the important thing. So for you, because right now you're in the shared office space, people are not going out, you could build authority by saying, hey, you can't work with us in our offices, but let's help you set up your home office. So you can make a video, what's the best home office to set? What equipment do you need? You can have a video that says something along the lines of 5 routers that you should be getting in order to get the best Wi-Fi. You could be getting, should you use Zoom or Team or Microsoft Teams? Build up an authority that that you're in the space of helping people achieve productivity. Because a shared office, that's what it boils down to, is people being productive. What are the productivity apps that you can review? What are some tips for people who have kids and I've got dogs running around and kids in the other room and someone's in college and someone's a student? So like how can you still remain productive? What hardware do you need? What software do you need? All of those to really help the idea that you're helping people maintain productivity. So when we go back to whatever the new normal is going to be, people will know you as the channel. And by the time your office is open, well, you just carry on the same theme.
Great. Wendy, I guess, I hope that answers your question. So moving ahead with the next question in the questions tab, this is being asked by Vita Musli. I'm struggling to get 4,000 hours watch. Can you suggest how to pass it except uploading more videos?
Yeah, it's not about uploading more videos. It's about looking at your analytics that you currently have and understanding what's working and what isn't working. And once you know that, you start making more videos that are working as opposed to just throwing lots of stuff out there. So there's lots of ways to do that. You can go look at your analytics, look at your most watched videos, your most retention, how long are people staying on your videos for? Are they interested in that topic? When you make 2 or 3 videos about one topic, does it do better than when you make 5 random videos? Then start narrowing it down to the topic that your audience actually wants. The only way to get more views and more watch time is make more content than people want to watch. Now, we have a software called vidIQ. We have a button called Channel Audit. You press that button and it tells you what to focus on, what's working, and what isn't working. If you don't want to use that, simply go into YouTube Analytics and then start going through your videos to understand it. Just throwing more stuff out there and hoping it will work, not a great strategy. But if you go and make data-driven decisions by understanding your data, that's when you win all the time.
Right. And now that you have mentioned vidIQ, my next question was about that only, Liron. So could you please tell us when is the right time to avail professional services to optimize a YouTube channel like yourself, like vidIQ? What should be kept in mind?
So with vidIQ, what we do is we have lots of different types of plans. We have a free plan that everybody can simply get access to it. At the end of the day, for vidIQ, the most important thing is seeing people succeed on their YouTube journey. That's it. Our entire company is built for that. So we have a free version of our tool. Now, as you get bigger and as you're starting to understand more data, then of course it goes to a paid version, and then there's like an enhanced version that's got all the bells and whistles. But up until that point, you can simply use the free stuff. When it's time to really outsource all your analytics, all your channel optimization, usually it's when the creator is making some nice money. They have the ability to go hire a professional to manage and optimize their channel. Those are normally at, we see much higher tiers, 500,000 and above kind of levels. But that's why we've taken all that information and simply made it into a software version. The reason I'm at vidIQ, the reason I run this department is because as a creator myself, I'm frustrated with YouTube. I'm irritated that we don't get certain information. So we're building tools that I'm frustrated with. And a lot of us at vidIQ are creators. So we're frustrated. We know what you're going through. So all the tools that we're building is the ways that are going to help us on our personal channels grow and therefore help everybody else. And if you stick around to the end of this presentation, we've even got some free offers to give you guys. So yeah, towards the end, I'll share a link. You guys can get vidIQ for free as well. Just because you're here, why not?
I think the nicest way of cutting through a problem is that you face a problem and there's not a solution existing right now, and you start building for it. I think that's the way to go forward. And so congratulations to you on that, Liron. Guys, I hope you are enjoying the session, and we do expect more questions in the questions tab. But before we move forward, I'd like to give a quick shout out to Design Hill, was leading creative marketplace, for organizing this event. Let's take a quick short break and keep this interesting conversation going on with Liron.
Claremax is a full-service video agency based around video production. We created a brand that fit our identity at the time, but as we've evolved as a company, we found that original brand didn't quite fit our aspirations anymore. Finding a partner to rebrand your entire company takes a lot of time and effort. Finding Design Hill was an incredible lifeline. Design Hill offers a money-back guarantee. If we don't like any of the designs, we get all of our money back. The stuff that we ended up with were well beyond what we had been seeing on other creative services platforms. After creating a simple design brief by answering some questions created by Design Hill, we posted, and within a few days, we had over 250 entries. Design Hill's platform made it easy to communicate with all of the potential designers. Eventually, we picked a winner. In addition to a logo, our designer also created a letterhead, business cards, and banners for all of our social media platforms. With Design Hill's help, we now have a brand that meets our aspirations. We're ready for the future and everything that it's here to bring.
All right, we're back again. Let's continue with the session. Um, Liron, so we'll move ahead a bit around the the business part of it. So wanted to ask you, how should brands organize their video content? So should they produce their own videos? Is there a to-do list they should be going by? So what are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, brands, videos versus regular creators are not that different. At the end of the day, you're appealing to an audience, you're appealing to a reason for somebody to watch your video, and you're still telling a story. Whether you're trying to tell people about your shared office space or whether you're telling people about how to cook their next meal, it's still a story. You're still giving people information. So the to-do list essentially works on what is your focus? What's the aim of this video? Why are you making it? Is it just to get more views and subscribers? That's kind of not good enough. So as a brand especially, what's your KPI? What's going to help you understand whether this is a working video or not a working video? And you can't measure it on one video alone. Is it going to be a part of a series, a 3-part series, a 10-part series? Are you going to make it yourself and put it on your channel? Or are you going to reach out to other influencers and work with them? Those are the kind of questions you really need to understand so that you're going in with realistic expectations. The mistake that a lot of brands make is they think, well, everybody knows who I am. I'm going to stick a video on my channel and people are just going to watch. Well, as I said before, I don't know about you or anybody in the chat here that woke up this morning and say, wow, I wonder what my toothpaste company is up to. Not one, right? But if your company, your toothpaste company was awesome, they made funny videos, they worked with a lot of your favorite creators, that makes a lot of sense. So we've seen a lot of creators who are doing partnerships, affiliations, they're doing shout outs, they're doing integrations where they take their brands and they say to the brands, look, you know your company, we know YouTube. Let's find a way to work together where we can organically and genuinely promote your products and services to an audience that wants your product and services. And that is a beautiful match. Again, I'm just to give you a personal example, I'm in the technology space. I talk about things like faster Wi-Fi and routers and things of that nature and how to do things with your phone and gadgets. I work with a lot of brands because they say to me, look, we've got this product. Your audience is a tech audience, technology audience. They want this information. Here it is. Help us get this product out into the market. If I'm genuinely excited about the product, I know my audience is going to be, and it's a nice fit. I make sure my Alex is going to watch. That's the important thing. And if I know that it's a good fit, that's how brands really get some nice exposure and become leaders in their space. Just because you've made a video and you stick it out there on YouTube doesn't mean you're going to get views and subscribers. YouTube simply doesn't work that way. There's a lot of content to choose from. They need to have a reason to watch your content. The final thing on the brands, you could always work with an influencer or with a creator and maybe start the video on their channel, but then maybe have the follow-up to the number 2 or number 3 or number 4 video on the series on your own channel. So it gets lots of eyeballs from the big creator, and then you say, okay, to find out how the story ends, head over to this channel, and then you'll see the next in the series coming out tomorrow. And now you're starting to push people towards your company.
Right. Again, I really love the examples that you give. And in case if people don't know, Alex is Liron's persona that he tries to please every time he's thinking of any idea. Right. Liron, there's this very, a funny as well as great question, I'd say. And it's also, I'm myself curious to know this. We talked about ads being played, in a YouTube video. So, a lot of these ads, these are the ads generally people want to get rid of while watching. And if they generally get skipped, then how do YouTubers actually end up making money? Because that's something, so there's this minimum 5-second time that goes that, you are not able to skip that particular ad. But then how does that algorithm work? Is there an algorithm in place? And, how does that make a brand any good?
Yeah, so if somebody skips your ad, you don't get paid. But what we've seen a lot is that there are now options for an advertiser to have non-skippable ads, and you can have more than one ad. It boils down to a simple thing. When an advertiser wants to advertise on your channel, they the good advertisers will understand their industry really, really well. So it's a cooking channel, let's just say, and maybe I sell a product for cooking. And let's just say it's an Instant Pot, that big pot that you can put all the things into, right? I'm not going to advertise the Instant Pot on a home buying channel. It's not interesting. I'm not going to advertise my Instant Pot on a fashion channel. It's not interesting. But am I going to advertise my Instant Pot on a cooking channel? Yes. And if my ad is good, people don't skip good ads because good ads are good stories. What people skip on is that they just want to get into the movie and this irritating things at the beginning that nobody cares about. That's when you just want to skip. And that's a mistake on an advertiser's part because they're wasting their time and their money. So the quality of the channel, the quality of the ads, how many ads, all of those have an impact. And especially when you put an ad in the middle of your video, especially if it's in a good position, just before the reveal, or just before the climax of their story, or just before you reveal the big tip, then people do watch the ad because they want to see what comes next. So there's a whole bunch of different ways, but you're right. If people simply skip all the ads at the beginning, the creator's not going to make money, which is why you need to rely on other ways of income, not just those 5-second ads.
Right. So it circles back to, having more than one stream of revenue for a
Correct.
YouTube channel, not just one. So, right. Another thing that, we got asked the most was about collaborative videos. So we see a lot of YouTubers coming together and exchanging traffic these days. And we will also get to this thing called clickbait in, another 4-5 minutes. But what do you think about collaborative videos? Do you think this is the right and the most effective way to increase views or optimize a YouTube channel, or it depends genre to genre?
No, it doesn't depend genre to genre. It depends on the idea. So just doing a collaboration with another creator doesn't automatically mean that you're going to get all these views and all these subscribers and that's all you need. Oh, if this big creator would only say my name on their live stream, then my channel's going to blow up. It just doesn't work that way. What you need to have is a good idea. And you need to work with channels which are very similar to you, or you can add value to their audience. So again, let's go back to the cooking example. If you said to me, hey, I've got a cooking channel. I know you have a technology channel, but I was thinking of an idea where I'm going to show you 5 gadgets that every kitchen must have. Oh, okay. That's gadgets. That's technology. It's cooking, which is good for your channel. Okay, then the idea works well. But if you came to me and you say, hey, I'm going to teach you how to make chicken, well, my audience really doesn't care about that. They're there for the technology. So collaboration works really well. Not good, it works really well if the idea is good for both parties. If the idea is only good for one person, then it's very difficult to make a collaboration work. Now, again, a mistake that creators make is they think, oh, I've only got 1,000 subscribers. Why would someone with 10,000 subscribers want to work with me?
Right.
Of course they want to work with you if you have a good idea. If you're just going to reach out to them and say, hey, please work with me, they don't care. I worked with a channel, to give you an example, I work with a channel that has 3.5 million subscribers. Somebody with 50,000 subscribers reached out to them to say, hey, I've got this good idea. Now you would think, why would they work with a 50,000 subscriber channel? And they did. Why? Because the idea was great. They loved the idea. The idea worked for their audience. Their audience loved the idea. And then guess what? The audience went to see, wow, who is this person? And they went across to that person's channel. And now because it makes sense. When an idea is good, it's good for both people, not just the one doing the pitching. And then the audience goes from the one channel and they go to the other and they stay because they like that content. And that's the important thing. Good idea, good for both audiences, gets the audience to come across. Collaboration just for doing it hardly works if you're just doing it for the sake of doing it.
Right, and also an intelligent brand wouldn't shy away from collaborating with a comparatively smaller YouTuber, given it satisfies the demand and the purpose they are trying to serve. Right.
Yeah, especially from a brand's point of view, a brand will say, look, I've got $10,000. Let's just say that's the number.
Right.
I have a choice. I can get one YouTuber and I can give them $10,000 because they've got a big audience. That's one option.
Right.
Or I can get 10 small YouTubers and give each one of them $1,000. It's just, what do I want? For same budget, but am I looking for exposure? And I want every creator to be talking about this. So I must get lots of creators and give them each $100. And now I'm going to get thousands of creators. Or am I just looking to be associated with this one person? In which case, put all my money into one person and then get that association. There are lots of ways to do it, just depending what you want. And that's why being clear what the outcome is going to be from a company's point of view is always crucial.
Absolutely. So, moving ahead, Liron, let's just give a cursory glance on the questions tab, and we have questions. Right. So, Rennie is asking Liron how to grow audience if you are at the starting point and you still do not have analytics.
Okay, how to grow if you're just starting out? The
Starting out.
important thing is make videos that you're passionate about. Do your research, understand your audience, make 5 videos, find similar kind of videos, see what works. When you make 5 videos, out of those videos, 3 of them maybe are not going to do well, but 2 of them maybe will have more interest. Then you make 2 more videos on those 2 items. Once you then see if they're still growing. If they're still growing, you make more videos on that topic. Be very specific with what you're doing. Also remember, don't pick up the camera until you've done your research. I could make a video today about something that nobody cares about. Nobody's going to watch. But if I make a video up today about something everybody cares about, I have a much better opportunity of being ranked, which is why, as I said, go do your research before you touch your camera. That's the biggest tip I can tell you, especially for a new creator. Don't just go make videos and hope for the best. Do your research and then make the video so that it makes sense to your audience.
Right. I think Rennie got her answer. And so we have another question by Sarah. It's what analytics do you recommend that we focus on the most? So I think I think I can also answer that, because you actually need to make your way to vidIQ, where Liron can always tell you what analytics do you recommend. So if you want to answer that question, Liron.
Yeah, and I can also drop the link now to that coupon that we were speaking about as well. So, and this came from Sarah, right? So what analytics do you recommend to watch? I like to watch something called retention. So there's 2 analytics to look at. Number 1 is CTR, click-through rate. What does that mean? When you put a video out and it's got a thumbnail, click-through rate means how often, what's the percentage that people clicked on it to come to your video. The higher the click-through rate, the more opportunity you have for your video to do well, the more people that are watching your video. So if you've got a video that's only performing at 1% CTR, 1% click-through rate, go and change the thumbnail, because it means people are not loving what you have on that thumbnail. As soon as the thumbnail gets higher and higher, the click-through rate gets higher and higher, more people are clicking. And then the second analytics to look at is something called the retention. How long are people on your video? You could make a beautiful 20-minute video, but if people are only watching 1% of that video, it's telling YouTube, look, there's no good quality here. And then YouTube doesn't promote your video. But I like to watch that retention. I like to make a 5-minute video, look at that retention. Am I keeping people watching to 50% of my video? If the answer is yes, great, make more 5-minute videos. If the answer is that people are dropping off right at the beginning, then my introduction is terrible. I'm not hooking people long enough. I'm not telling you what you're going to get. We've all seen those videos, right? When somebody starts, the video starts and it's all about how to fix your toilet. Let's just say the example, right? And somebody says, hey, for breakfast today, I was going to have burritos, but the car was nobody cares. I want to know how to fix my toilet. So I've left. Okay. But if that video says, hey, today I'm going to show you 3 quick tips to fix your toilet. Oh, okay, now I'm interested. Now I want to stay on to understand that. That's why I always look at my retention and understand where people are leaving so I can fix it. And what a lot of people are finding when they look at that retention graph, the beautiful animation and your logo spinning and your company introduction, people don't care about that. They're skipping over that, or they're leaving your video. Cut that out and you see a huge difference on your channel. Hopefully
Right.
that answers, Sarah.
Yes, yes, and also I have put the link of Liron's website here in the chat it so that you have detailed answers to your queries. So
I'm also going to put in that link in the chat. I'm also going to put that special offer that we have for everybody here.
yeah,
If people want, so what we do is we have the free version, and the link that I've put in there is a link to the fully paid version for 30 days, give you a whole month. You guys can unlock and use the whole of vidIQ and come and hang out with us. We do a lot of training on our channel. We do a weekly webinar where I go through live training, where I tell you exactly the step-by-step that you need to do in order to get your channel ranked, to get more views, more watch time, more retention. And I do this every single week. So if you want to join me on that, go and check out the website. There's a link to schedule to get on that, and it's free as well. Absolutely.
absolutely. So as we move towards the end, Liron, I also wanted to know a bit. I remember one of the registrants mentioned something called clickbait, that gets fake views and that kind of ramp up the views, but it is not right in the long run. It's not the right practice to do for in the long run. So, what are those common mistakes that YouTubers make, and a lot of them become famous too, and have been setting wrong examples for the upcoming ones? I mean, can you please,
Yeah. So the important thing is don't look at the big YouTubers, because the rules don't apply when you have 1 million subscribers and above, or 500,000 subscribers and above. The rules are not the same for you as they are for somebody that is starting out. Why? Because YouTube just has much more data on that creator than they do on you. You're just in the beginning phases. You're just starting out. And if you're just starting out, the rules are going to be different. So the big mistake is don't make a copy of a big creator. Someone like Casey Neistat or Peter McKinnon or PewDiePie or whoever, they could launch a video with no thumbnail and just nothing in the title and still get 1 million views. But we can't do the same because YouTube just doesn't work on the same way. So the important thing is don't just copy the big creators. Focus on your own channel. Don't worry about everybody else. Stop looking at everybody else and what they're doing, because all it's going to do is get you frustrated. How come they're doing better than I am? I have got better content. Why are they winning and I'm not? It's just irritating and it's not helping you. You don't know what they're doing on their channel. Maybe they're doing something dodgy. Maybe they're buying views. Maybe they are buying subscribers. And you should never, ever, 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 ever do that, because it will just destroy your channel. So don't worry about everybody else. Just focus on your channel. Focus, make little changes, and with every little change that you make, you become better. YouTube is a skill at the end of the day. None of us were born knowing how to read and write. We learned that. And it was difficult at the beginning, but over time, it became easier and easier and easier. People weren't born knowing how to swim or how to drive a car. But you learn, and when you start, it's a little bit weird, and the more you do it, the easier it gets. Same thing with YouTube. It's a skill. So you start somewhere, you do it slowly, you learn, you change, you make some more. You learn, you change, you make some more. Learn, change, make some more. That's how you get better. Not by looking at what everybody else is doing. Certainly not by doing clickbait. Not by saying, "Hey, I hang out with Casey," and then your video's got nothing to do with that. That will just penalize your video. Don't do the clickbait. Be exciting. Bring yourself to your channel. Don't be a copy, and take your time. This is a marathon, not a sprint. It will take time to get this right.
right? It's not a marathon. Right. So, this brings us to the end of this wonderful session. This was indeed a value-packed session, although there's a lot more that we could have discussed here. Unfortunately, we are limited by time here, guys. So I hope you all loved the session. Once again, I'd like to thank Liron for taking our time to be a part of this event. Liron, any last thoughts?
Sorry, I muted myself by mistake.
Not
Yeah, I think it was lots of fun. Just remember, it's supposed to be a fun journey. It's supposed to be exciting. When you're stressing out about it and you're so in your head and you're trying to work out what's going on, then it just becomes another weird job thing that you don't want to do. Stop, take a break, go refocus, look at your channel, whether you're starting out now or whether you're already existing. Do you have a focus on your channel? When you walk up to someone at a party and they say, hey, what do you do on YouTube? Can you be specific? Or are you waffling and going on and on and on and on and on? You know, if you're saying on my channel, I do fashion and vlogging and cars and technology and cooking, you're not focused because you're doing lots of stuff. The more ands that you have, the less focused you are. So if you could be super focused, go back. And if you're in the middle of creating your channel, or if you already got a channel or you're about to start out, stop. Are you focused? Is your channel clear? Are you an expert in what you're doing? Or are you doing lots of little things? Start getting your focus and then make videos that you're excited to make. And the more excited you are to make those videos, the more excited the audience will be to receive it. And take your time. Don't put something out there and then look around and say how everybody's getting millions of views, because that is just not true. Take your time and then slowly, slowly it will build. And that's the important message here. Take your time.
Take your time, guys. These are the golden words by Liron. And so thank you so much again, Liron, to be here with us. And again, this is not very tense. We have a lot more events lined up for you in the coming days. The next event is an AMA on LinkedIn marketing and how you can grow your business there. So if you guys are interested and haven't registered yet, I'm putting the link of our event section in the chat where you can find all our upcoming events and register. To stay updated with events like these, you can follow us on LinkedIn as well. You can give us suggestions on the topics you want us to cover and the speakers you want us to host. I'm dropping the link of our LinkedIn page as well. To watch this session and other wonderful events, subscribe to our event section on designhill.com/events. You can also watch the recording of this session and many other sessions on our YouTube channel as well. The link will be right up there in the chat again. For all the business owners who are listening to this and wish to source high quality graphic designs, please visit designhill.com. Also, there's an interesting announcement. We have recently launched this DIY creative tool called Design Hill Studio. Be it a designer or non-designer, everyone can create beautiful designs. Anything from presentations to banners to templates. You got it all here. It's called designhill.com/studio. So do make out some time and visit our Design Hill Studio, guys. On that note, I'd like to say bye to everyone who joined us here today. Take care, guys, and stay safe. So yeah, bye. All right. Great. Bye, guys.
All right, we're good.